So there are an estimated $200+ billion worth of loyalty value sloshing about globally. This is the value of all the miles, points, and other units of loyalty value. And so how do we get this global loyalty economy onto a Bitcoin standard? Today we discuss. Let's jump in. Okay, so admittedly today is a bit of an opportunity to market test some of the ideas that we've been thinking about with Joltz. For those that are not aware, that is really my day job. I am the co-founder of a Bitcoin Rewards startup. So this is not intended to be a purely sort of self-shill video. I do think there's some real value here for you guys, and that is why I wanted to do a video on this today. And the big nut we're trying to crack in all this, and the vision for us at Joltz, is how do we get sats into the hands of more individuals through this vector that is loyalty. And don't get me wrong, I want as many ways for plebs to stack sats as possible. But a lot of the existing Bitcoin Rewards solutions, whether they're card-based, whether you have to download a separate app or a browser extension, etc. But it's like, how do we get Bitcoin Rewards out into all these existing business environments that have existing customer bases, etc.? Think of all the traditional loyalty platforms, for example. Think of all the bigger merchants that have a standalone loyalty app, perhaps, that their customers use. How do we build the technology to get Bitcoin Rewards into all these different environments? That is really what we've gone after with Joltz. And so we started that journey with e-commerce merchants. Think of Shopify stores, WooCommerce stores. And so we launched earlier this year the world's first integration where these types of merchants can add Bitcoin Rewards to their stores. So you could say, hey, I want to do 5% back on all purchases. Maybe you get 3% back, but you have to spend a certain amount. So there's different ways and business logic with which you can craft these offers. And so for those watching, the first and foremost topic I wanted to cover is some of the ways that you could go and stack some sats. And so if you head over to joltzrewards.com, you will see our homepage here. And then if you simply scroll down a little bit, you'll see this Shop Now button. So you can click this and be taken to our different brands. And we're cleaning this page up a little bit, but you get the point. You can see these different offers. So 1% back on all purchases at Bitcoin trading cards. You've got Mr. Satoshi, which is an apparel store. You've got a 5% back with Shamory. You've got Bitcoin clothing. You've got panties for Bitcoin. You've got Consensus, which has all sorts of terrific Bitcoin books and content like that. You've got Crypto Boutique. They've got all sorts of different hardware wallets. So you can go and get 5% back on hardware wallets. We've got Decentral. So these guys are running anywhere between 3% to 10% back on mining equipment. And you can get like smaller miners. You could do some, home pleb mining. And we've got some more coming online. So definitely check this out. Again, you can get everything from Bitcoin merch to hardware wallets to mining equipment. And more. And how that experience will look, just so you're aware, let me pop over to our little, this is just our demo store for Shopify. So, let's imagine I'm buying, this handsome pair of socks. You'll see the offer at the top. Most of our partners have some sort of banner that says, hey, this is what the offer is. I can say buy it now. And so I'm going to go through the normal flow. I'm going to put in my, email, billing address, all that good stuff. And then on the payment page, I've just put this sort of test information in for card transaction. But this all also works with paying in Bitcoin. We have customers who accept payments over BTC Pay Server, OpenNode, etc. And so I just hit pay now. And so I've checked out, and in most cases, what you'll actually see is a pop-up that looks something like the following. So it'll say, hey, congrats, you've earned some Bitcoin, click here to claim. And then what that will do is if it's your very, very first time using Joltz, it will send an authentication email that looks something like this. So it'll say, hi, your recent purchase at whatever merchant qualifies you for a small reward of Bitcoin. And so you can go ahead and claim your reward. The reason we tie this to emails for now is, as you can imagine, not everyone is going to have a Lightning address that they could put in, or, a Lightning wallet that they could authenticate through, etc. So we want to make this really accessible. Obviously, that's something we continue to think about. One exciting feature we are building, though, is in that pop-up that you see, the ability to sort of toggle and say, hey, just go ahead and display the LN URL withdrawal code immediately. So boom, you can scan that with a Lightning wallet and, and away you go. And then for people who don't yet have a Lightning wallet, they can go the email route. So that'll be a really nice feature once we've built that out. But think of this as just like a magic link authentication process connected to whatever email you anyways used to make the purchase. And then once you claim that reward, you'll be brought to your little Joltz dashboard. You can see all my reward history here. You can see your balance at the top. So if I click this, I can submit a withdrawal request. I can go ahead and hit submit, and I get this LN URL withdrawal code that I can scan with any Lightning wallet that supports LN URL, which is most of them these days. For example, I'm doing this on desktop, so I can just click this bad boy, and that'll bring up my Albi Lightning browser extension that I'm using. I'll go ahead and hit confirm, and you can see my balance has updated accordingly. So very, very simple. And so this is accessible for people who maybe don't yet have a Lightning wallet. Obviously, we want to encourage them to get one. As I will mention in a moment, we're working on our own that's going to be really, really sick. It's going to be a self-custodial wallet, highly, highly, highly usable. But that is how you can withdraw your sats instantly over the Lightning Network for shopping at any of our great partners. So that was kind of the first topic I wanted to cover with you guys. By the way, if you're watching this and you run any sort of a store, you can come over to our e-commerce plugins tab, and you can see the platforms that we support. So we support Shopify, WooCommerce, Euclid. Really, really easy to implement this. You can see an example case study from one of our customers. It's been really, really encouraging to see the impact that these rewards can have, whether it's in conversion rate, a little bit higher average order value, and a significant ROI when you consider the cost of rewards, etc. We basically do a 5% of those rewards. So let's say you give out $100 in rewards over the course of a month. We would add a $5 service fee in that case. So it is pretty simple. You have a slow month. We have a slow month. All of this scales to your business. We don't slap you with an upfront, subscription fee. So in any case, if you do run a store and you're interested in exploring this, you can just come over and say get started, and this will just take you through a simple little form so that we can understand the type of reward you want to create, and we can get that going for you in the background. So if you're a sat stacker, you can check out the shop brands page. If you're a store, you can check out the e-commerce plugins. The other really, really exciting thing we just launched this week, and this is part of why I wanted to do this video now, is that we have launched our more general purpose Bitcoin Rewards API. You see, we got this coverage by Bitcoin News. I'll link this article in the description down below for you to take a look at. But this, I personally believe, and obviously very biased in that belief, but I think this is a huge deal and a really big ingredient that's going to be necessary for bringing Bitcoin Rewards mainstream. So if I pop over back to our website and go over to API integration, you'll see you have a form where you can request access to our API. You can also take a quick look at some of our docs, and you can request access here as well. But you'll basically see the different pieces that we're building out here. So we've got like core Bitcoin rewards. So you could add this to your app, to your website, whatever, maybe for making a purchase, or we also have referrals, right? You want to drive referrals to your business. You want to reward those referrers with Bitcoin. We've got a way for you to do that. We've got other awesome stuff with Taproot assets that I will talk about coming soon. And so why do I believe this is a big deal? Well, now any business, any entity can pull Bitcoin rewards into their existing environment. So this could be a big merchant like Starbucks, which obviously has its own standalone app. We believe Bitcoin is inevitable. We believe businesses offering and incorporating Bitcoin into their loyalty programs is inevitable. And so now Starbucks, instead of going out and building all this expertise internally, they can just go and use our API and plop whatever Bitcoin reward experiences they want into their app. That could be an opt-in option for their users to say, hey, you know what? I want to earn in Bitcoin. Or maybe I want to convert my points into Bitcoin, et cetera, et cetera. We're also talking to traditional loyalty platforms. So the technology behind the loyalty programs of some of these different merchants. And so same thing. Hey, younger generations especially are increasingly valuing Bitcoin. Why not enhance the value proposition of your loyalty program by including the option to earn in Bitcoin, so we can integrate with traditional loyalty platforms as well? And the final really exciting category is some of these players like Ibex, Lightspark, there's a number of these now who do Lightning Network payments as they go to merchants and other sorts of entities to sell in Lightning Network payments. We have an opportunity to be this value-added service, because what goes well with payments rewards. And in fact, in a lot of conversations we're having, rewards might even be the first step for a merchant to go onto a Bitcoin standard. They may look at accepting Bitcoin payments as like, well, what do I have to do for that? How do I hold it securely? There's other things they have to think about for accepting Bitcoin as payment. And don't get me wrong, I've done a ton of content on this channel about various ways to accept Bitcoin as payment. But the simple fact is that a lot of merchants are a little bit hesitant. So rewards can be this kind of dip your toes in experience where we take care of everything, or we could spin up a Lightning node on behalf of the merchant if they want to do it that way. But they can see how their customers and how their consumers react to the rewards. And then that gives them the motivation and the sort of learnings and insights to build a business case to then stack Bitcoin on their company treasury or adopt it as a payment method, etc. So that's the API. Again, super excited about that. If you're a developer or you work for a company that could have a use case for Bitcoin rewards, check out our documentation, reach out to me on Twitter or Nostr. Happy to connect on any of this. And then the final topic I wanted to talk about is circling back to that 200 billion plus number that we said at the very outset of the video. That is the value of all these units of loyalty value that sit in these different closed silos, right? You've got your points here, your points here. They don't really talk to each other. They can't really do that much. There's all these restrictions. They can be diluted at a moment's notice. You have all these sort of core pain points in the traditional world of loyalty. And so that's why we're really excited about Taproot assets. So for those not as familiar, I will try and link some of the content I've done in the past. This is formerly known as the Taro protocol. It has now been rebranded to Taproot assets. And we are very, very imminently close to having the Taproot assets protocol being pretty fully baked in terms of being backwards compatible, no breaking changes. So that's going to probably unfold over the next couple months. And so at Joltz, we're actually building a self-custodial Lightning wallet that will also be compatible for Taproot assets. So if you're not already, follow us on Twitter at Joltz Rewards, because this I think is going to be really, really cool, not just for the self-custodial Lightning wallet, but for some of the additional use cases that can be unlocked with Taproot assets. Now, I know the idea of tokens on Bitcoin is a very controversial one, and there are no doubt potential risks associated with it. At the same time, it's myopic just to look at the risks. You have to also look at the benefits. And the analogy I like to use, and I thought of this on Kevin Rook's podcast that I did earlier this week, is, we all think of Bitcoin, of course, as this life raft. And today there are a number of ladders to get people onto the life raft. And so what protocols like Taproot assets or even RGB, which I've done content on this channel, what they do is they stack up additional ladders to the life raft. For example, one of the big use cases for tokens on Bitcoin are things like stablecoins. Now look, I'm not going to be stacking stablecoins. I'm not going to recommend any of you to stack stablecoins. But for a lot of people in the world, just look at the market cap of Tether, of USDC, etc. There's clearly a large demand, and that includes in places like the Global South and elsewhere where people have harder access to get to dollar liquidity. So all I'm saying is that, like it or not, again, I don't have a use case for it, and many of you watching probably don't have a use case for it, but there are a lot of people out there who do, and that might be the ladder through which they stumble onto the Bitcoin life raft. And so if done properly, if built in an efficient way in terms of block space, which I believe Taproot assets, things like RGB do, whereas things like ordinals, BRC20 tokens, I think do not. Those are a far less efficient use of block space for creating tokens on Bitcoin. And so if done well, if done efficiently, I think the benefits outweigh the costs. That's where I fall on this on net. And so what we're thinking about with Joltz, how could these assets apply to the loyalty market? And there's two different ways. One, you could have loyalty collectibles that could serve as maybe a more privacy-minded alternative to logging into a merchant's website, being able to access exclusive content, token-gated access to new product launches. All these sorts of use cases could be unlocked with these Taproot asset loyalty collectibles. The other kind of bigger vision, more far out, a little more meta, is to tokenize these different loyalty points themselves and have them zipping along as fungible tokens on Lightning rails. Think about how today you might have certain partnerships between merchants where, let's say you have some airline miles, right? And maybe that airline has a relationship with a hotel chain where you can redeem some of your miles for a discount on your hotel stay. So what happens behind the scenes? those loyalty systems are incredibly archaic. They're not particularly interoperable. They're these closed systems that are kind of kludged together to enable you, the consumer, to do that. But what's happening behind the scenes that you're not aware of is that there's a lot of value leaking because these systems are not open and interoperable. And so while sure, you could maybe hobble along and kind of complete that transaction, there's a lot of value that's being leached. Now, imagine instead, for the same reasons as you hear Jack Mallers and others espouse the benefits of the Lightning Network as being this open, interoperable payments network that's going to inevitably outcompete closed payment networks, so too do we think this dynamic operates for loyalty. So imagine those airline miles and those hotel points all zipping across Lightning Network rails, being denominated in sats, being easily and immediately redeemable in sats, and being easily exchangeable across these different forms of value. This is how you start to denominate that $200+ billion loyalty economy in Bitcoin. This is a massive win for the consumer. Suddenly, I now have the increased optionality and flexibility to exchange any of these forms of value into sats or into each other. And for merchants, while this is going to be initially scary, they want their little closed garden. Make no mistake, we are already seeing early signs of what this more open loyalty paradigm might look like. Starbucks and others have started to do some very interesting experiments in this regard. And so for merchants that participate in this, they're ultimately going to get a huge leg up by being able to offer a unambiguously superior value proposition for their loyalty program to consumers. They're going to benefit from additional discoverability. Imagine when you unleash the free market of individuals to exchange these different forms of value and sort of allocate these different forms of value in a more efficient way. And so that's the kind of big vision and roadmap that we are aiming for at Joltz. Obviously, we have to crawl before we walk, before we run. But with all that, let's go ahead and conclude today's video. So I must thank you all for allowing me to do a little bit of a shill of Joltz today, but I hope you got real value from it. Again, you could go on all those great merchants and get some sats back right away. And I also wanted to kind of test some of these ideas that we've been thinking about. So I would love to hear your thoughts. Are these ideas stupid? Is there merit behind them? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you've used Joltz or you go and try it out with some of these merchants, I would love to, of course, hear your feedback on any of that as well. How can we continue to improve the experience? And again, if you're not following us on Twitter, I would encourage and invite you to do so at Joltz Rewards. We're going to be rolling out this Taproot Assets enabled wallet very soon. And we've got new merchants now coming on all the time to the platform. But again, hopefully some new opportunities for you to stack some sats and hopefully some ideas that are thought-provoking and push the frontier of what is possible in terms of this intersection of loyalty and Bitcoin. I hope you found this valuable and insightful. If you did, you already know what to do. Give this video a like. Use the share feature underneath this video. That really does help get this to a broader audience. And if you're so enamored with this content, you want to donate to a pleb, which really does help me continue to make this content, you can do so in a number of ways. There's the Super Thanks feature built directly into YouTube, although if you are going to donate, I would prefer sats. And for that, you can do so in a number of ways. If you happen to be using the Albi browser extension, you can just click that and it'll automatically detect you're watching my channel, or I will have my Lightning address and Strike account on the page momentarily. But for now, we'll go ahead and leave things here. As a reminder, every sat counts, especially if you can earn it for something you're anyways already doing, which is shopping with great merchants. And until next time, my friends, I'll see you then.